What is good, guys? How's everything going? So I'm coming in today. We're gonna do some coloring and stuff in Procreate. I've got, as you can see right here, I got this. I got my finished flats. I got some kind of semi-sketchy line art stuff, but I'm more in it for the colors. That's more kind of like what I want to show today. How I go about like applying colors to stuff. Right here though, I want to kind of just show you, like, I want to add a little bit more color here to these two. I want to add kind of like I want to add this blue here. So this blue in these spots, and then once I've done that, we'll be continuing on with the base kind of like painting. I've got this layer set to reference. Layer 2 is set to reference. When it's my line art layer, so when that layer is set to reference, what that means is that other layers are referencing it. So the lines, the gaps, all the things that I've done purposely so I can fill it in with color and stuff can be filled on different layers because that is the reference layer. Sometimes it might get in your way when you try and do color fills and stuff, but right now it's cool. Obviously, if you want to prevent that, you just take it off. You just go here and you go reference, you turn it off. But yeah, for now, so that's how you see me throw that blue in there because it was already referenced. So, and this is just all my flats. That's my lines. That's my kind of lines on their own. That's my flats, right? So what I want to do today, as I said, is I just want to go into the coloring process. So right here, I make another layer. Boom, hit clipping mask. Okay, so what I like to do a lot of the time is just make it simple for myself. Hit it with a multiply and then figure out what kind of stuff I'm doing with the lighting and everything like that. I haven't really given it too much thought, to be honest. So what I'm thinking right now though is I get a fill, like a straight fill on a multiply. So I just throw a fill in here. Oh yeah, reference is still on. You see that? I tried to fill then, and the reference kind of just filled in the hand and put the hand on there. So I'm going to turn the reference off. Then go back in. I'm just going to drag this color straight in. I should get this blue all over my canvas. It's set to darken. I need it set to multiply. So there we go, look. So now, very old trick is that if we just erase with whatever eraser out, we get these kind of like transitions and we start revealing the color. Depending on what brush you use, you can really kind of create something interesting with the way you're erasing back out the color. There's a bunch of different ways to do this. You could do it by using selections. You could do it by literally just doing what I'm doing, just painting it out. There's a bunch of different ways, bunch of different techniques, bunch of different like applications to this. I was actually going to work quite reverse to this, but sometimes you just see something and it works and you just go with it. I'm not so sure that this is the lighting scenario that I want, but sometimes these dynamic lighting scenarios just look better than the ones that aren't that dynamic. So here, I just erase what I did because I want to show you a trick. With areas of shadow, it's always good to leave a space and then start your erasing. So it shows that like the light is still creating a shadow above this section. Right, so I've got these hands. Now, you got to see everything as an object, right? So the hands, the knuckles would get illuminated at the back. And then you could kind of pull down from that. Top of the hand, top of those armbands. And you could kind of go about it like that. Thumb. So we've got we've got a fair amount of this stuff kind of in light now. What I was going to do is also do the other side. Now, the problem with that is it kind of like asks the question then, where is the actual light source? And obviously, so what I'll do is the light source seemingly now is here, right? That's where it's seeming like it is. So if it's there, then if I want another light source here, it has to be a different color. It has to be ambient light, or it has to be bounce light, or it has to be some kind of artificial light. I'm probably going to go with the latter, so I'm probably going to go with artificial light. So I'm going to hit overlay. I'm going to get like a purple. I'm going to create some artificial light over here. And don't ask me why I used overlay. I just wanted to try it. It seems interesting what it's doing now. I don't know if I'll commit to it, but as of right now, I'm just having a little mess around with it, and it's seeming like it's creating interesting results. I'd rather change it to something else though. I'd rather change it to like add, and I'd rather like, because look how cool add looks, right? Add looks insane, right? And we can turn it down because this is very intense. Like this is like crazy intense. But this is cool. Like I might even leave it like that. That looks so cool. That like seemingly like now doing that, I feel like I've added elements to my drawing. Like I feel like I've added some stuff. All right. So I stopped the recording just a little bit then. I kind of wanted to just make sure the sound was working on the first part. So yeah, here we're back. So yeah, my whole kind of like purpose for how I started that process then was semi-deliberate. It was so I made this kind of like image a few years back, and it was very similar to this in terms of like lighting and stuff, but I did it a little bit differently. So I just wanted to see how like I could kind of advance on that process now, a few years down the line and stuff. And this is kind of like the result, I guess, of trying to advance on that process. So if you're going to do this type of coloring, this type of like painting or whatever you want to call it, I'd just classify this as coloring. For me, when we start talking about digital painting and stuff like that, it's a whole nother conversation, because I really think digital painting is more about like really painting. But, you know, how big is a heap, right? This could be classified as digital painting to some people, I guess. I think there's some professional color people that work kind of probably similarly to this, and they would classify this as digital painting or whatever. For me, digital painting is like you're just doing much more stuff with actual just straight color. But as I said, everything's down to interpretation. Even my opinion on what digital painting is, as someone that classifies himself as like a digital painter. So I think this could be seen as like how to digitally paint your drawings or something like that. If I was to like name this video like something, give this video like a title, which I'm probably gonna have to, right? But I've been off YouTube so long that probably just gonna get swallowed up by the algorithm and probably not be seen. But hey, we good, right? So the reason I'm using this brush is because it gives very painterly strokes. It just gives very kind of like soft and hard strokes at the same time. And the whole purpose of me doing that is to create a painterly look. Now, another way you can create a painterly look is if you whip out the smudge tool. Now, you have to pick a smudge brush to go with. I have a bunch of brushes that I use. I name them funny things like Unstoppable. These are my inks, my webcomic brushes. Zdig Remake. Zdig's one of my favorite artists. I remade one of his brush packs for Procreate, FX, Draw. I got a bunch of them. Girl a Day, because I decided I wanted to draw one girl every day and just just didn't do it. But this, the square pastel that I've made, is a very good smudge brush. So look here, grab some stuff and just start smudging it around, and it helps you to kind of get a painterly feel. You know, not the most painterly, but smooth. You push that putty around, it creates something a little bit more clean. You know, you don't have to do it that way, but it's just another way of working. And this is a technique an artist called Genzo Man used to use a lot. Genzo Man was like really good. Like, he still does work. I still see his work places, but he was huge during like the DeviantArt, Imagine FX days, like kind of like, I'd say about 10 years ago, maybe. That was like his time when he was like really well known, really good artist, really cool stuff. Uses a lot of smudge in his work. And I'm just adopting the technique. There's another guy, Stefan Sajic. His name's he goes by Nebezial. His artist name is like Nebezial. He does like but yeah, I apologize if I'm not talking as much. It's just I'm just kind of like enjoying the process. Like, I have had so much like issues with Procreate, and not Procreate itself. It's just like my own personal like vendetta against it, because I was, you know, I'm very convinced it's not as efficient as Photoshop. But then sometimes I use it and I think it is though, you know. And all this, a lot of the time I do really think like your software really doesn't define you artistically. Like, it really doesn't. So what I'm doing now, I'm just throwing in some, we're on the add layer where we did the lighting, and we're just throwing in some like extra kind of like brown highlights, I guess, with a dark, look how dark this is, right? With a very dark tone, throwing in some extra brown highlights just to throw them in, just to give extra detail. It's always good to have little accents of something or little extra pieces of something, just to add something to something. Just think about like cell shading. Like, you think about like Attack on Titan. Attack on Titan looks so good a lot of the time because it has like 3 or 4 levels of shading that push it beyond a lot of other shows that have 2 levels of shading. But they have that shading consistently as well. It's not just once, they have it a bunch of times through the show. All right, so what I want to do real quick is establish a background. Now, what I did actually want to do about that was I wanted to use a photo. I don't know if I have any photos, but I'm going to go through my gallery and find one. Now, I'm not going to show you guys my gallery, so I'm going to pause the video for this part, and then I'll be right back when I've got a photo. Okay, I'm back. So I found a photo that wait a minute, I accidentally did something and it looks really cool. So I accidentally filled the layer with black, right? This layer here. And it went from looking like this. No, like this. It's looking like this. And I think that's kind of cool. A few things need ironing out, but I do kind of like that. But let's just return to what we had. And then let's have a look at like the opacity of this layer and just drop this a little bit. Okay, so I got myself a photo. I'm going to throw it in the background. Just going to paste it in. Quick menu. Boom. Allow paste. I've got my quick menu set to 4 fingers. So literally, I'm going to hide everything except the photo real quick. So this is a photo I took in the Nottingham area. I live in Nottingham in the UK. And literally, it's a photo of just a random street of somewhere where I kind of like coach basketball. And I like this street, so I just took the photo. Literally. Doesn't match our theme or anything, but hey, we'll bring the character, we'll bring everything back in. There we go. All of a sudden we're in scene, right? Now, I'm just gonna blur it out. It's just gonna hold a Gaussian blur. There we go. And then another thing I like to do is do chromatic aberration. There we go. So we got, it's blurred and it's aberrated real quick. And it's seeming like the character is kind of like slanted. So what we can do is we can distort the photo a little bit. It matches the character. So here we are. We've got character, we've got kind of two light sources. We got kind of like smudged together, kind of like blended painterly coloring. It's all kind of working out. All I want to do now is just kind of like mess with those shadow tones a little bit and see if anything else looks better. Right now, I'm leaning more towards the warm tones, but the cool tones are working too. Okay, so just gonna smudge those. We're gonna merge these together actually. Oh, you can't do that, it doesn't work. Sometimes you try and merge certain layer combinations together and they just don't work. They're just out of sync. Just gonna erase this. There was a little piece hanging at the bottom. So yeah, right now we're very close to what I'd classify as a finish. I'm gonna start, because I'm thinking this is like more of a quick process for like a webcomic. So I'm gonna start throwing in some like finishing details. So something I always add no matter about the lighting scenario is this. It's like a white piece in the eye. And you can add another one if you want. Just like a fainter one on the other side. It gives like volume to the eye. And then on the edge of the character. So if we start kind of like looking at this as a group, right? And then we duplicate that and we flatten one version of it. This flattened version, he can have, so we set that to a clipping mask. We'll hide the old version. He can have a bunch of extras. So set this to, we'll get a new layer, set that to a clipping mask. And we will, what clipping masks do is they allow you to not paint outside of the edge of whatever you've got selected. So I've got this character selected, so I can't paint outside of his edge. So yeah, one thing is white, kind of white on the edges of everything. The problem is with this is you can see some of it and you can't see some of the other pieces of it, so it's kind of like a bit strange. And don't worry, I'm gonna smudge some of this in later. So I'm gonna just, this is something I like to do a lot. I like to go in on the nose and just add like the same white thing. All the little kind of like facial, kind of like contour areas, I like to kind of add it. going to be all over the ear because the ear is also outside. It's going to be on that braid. There's these little pieces of detail. They all add up. They all add up to like having a more detailed image. But this is, as I said, this is just me kind of trying to show you quick ways to go through this process of coloring, because we went from an image that was basically black and white to something that was pretty advanced. Now I just did a hue saturation to change the colors of the background image, just to kind of like get that purple, right? The only issue is now is if I do a feather, I'm gonna feather this by by the max. I'm gonna select this area over here, and I'm gonna go hue saturation again, and I'm gonna change that to a more bright, kind of like sky. Okay, making strides. Now, one more thing I like to do is make another clipping mask, make one more multiply layer, get a pretty solid brush. So right now I'm going to go into my webcomic. In fact, I'm going to go into my Thieves Inks. And this is just a basic round ink brush. Set to multiply so we didn't paint. Here we go. I'm going to get something a little bit less. There we go. Look, that's fine. I'm going to go in again, and I'm going to start creating some extra shadows on top of the ones we already have to gain a little bit more detail. Also, it's always good to kind of like highlight or kind of like shadow where the highlights are. It just creates a good effect. I don't know why. It's almost as though you are creating shadows from the highlights you've posted yourself. And I'm going in and doing some smudging here and there on those, some of those shadows, not all of them, some of them, just to give a little bit more detail kind of here and there. What I'm doing here, I'm smudging so it creates like a light fall off. And then right under the head, it's like uncharted territory, haven't really touched it. Just get a big shadow here. And smudge, just smudge, guys. But yeah, I do apologize for not really speaking that much during these. This is like the first time in a while that I've like done something like this. And first time like that I've really kind of gone in trying to do something like this, like trying to like go through the process properly, just trying to make it happen. I'm just gradually slightly erasing some of it. But yeah, I'd definitely say the extra shadows are more of an improvement than anything else. Sometimes as well, you just leave them straight sharp. You don't have to mess with them too much. What I'm doing here, I'm adding nails to my character's hands because I didn't add them before. That's another thing. I'm adding like nails. I'm adding like the in-between sections of the fingers. just to make them seem more like human hands instead of like these action figure hands. There I go, going quiet again. These are straight areas of shadow, so I'm just going to fill these in with shadow. And look, this here is another area of shadow, boom. Let's create a shape right here, boom. And then what I'll do is there's like shadow behind the backpack straps. There'll be shadow underneath the hands, like where the hands have like been. Same with the other hand. And also one thing I'm going to do as well is probably turn the saturation down of the shadows. Like I definitely think it'd be better if they were just like less saturated than anything else, just kind of like straight gray. And this isn't like the way I'd always do it, but I think like if you're gonna work on like a big project, so I'm thinking like if I'm gonna work on like a webcomic, I'm gonna have to kind of like find a faster way to kind of like get through everything. I think this might be the technique. I'm gonna throw in a few here on the muscles, and then I'm just gonna smudge those out real quick. Boom, 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 boom. And I think that's it. So I'm gonna add some effects in the background. So right here, boom, we make a new layer. We've got a bunch of brushes. So what I'm gonna do is quickly take that smudge brush and just make that into our brush tool. Only because it's got a good texture, I'm just gonna kind of like use it to smear the background a little bit. And it works fantastic. Nah, I don't know what he was doing with his hands. Maybe he was conjuring a technique or something. I don't know, but maybe we'll run with that. So, because I legit created this image just as a test, like just to kind of test out like things I wanted to try. So, I wanted to test out like doing a tutorial like this. So I didn't really have a clear plan when I came to it. I just decided to do something. So. And that's always a lot of the time what I do is a lot of winging it, and that's not great, right? It's not always good to wing it. I'm trying to help you guys because I've winged it a lot with a lot of things, and sometimes it would be nice to just, just get just do some stuff that was more planned, more structured. So here I am again. I'm using the smudge tool to create energy. Now you can use the smudge tool a bunch of different ways. I've just switched over to a rake smudge tool. I use a rake brush to kind of paint this stuff in. So I switched to a rake brush tool. A rake smudge tool to kind of smudge in rakes. And there's a bunch of different things you can do, but for the sake of like speed and efficiency, this is one of my favorite smudge tools. It smudges like brush, kind of like in a brush kind of way, and it has like bristles to it. Now, yeah, we are losing a lot of that underhand, but it doesn't really matter. And I'm really thinking like what blending mode do I use for this, right? I'm thinking go back to add, right? Because add's kind of cool. But the only problem with that is that it makes the energy seem quite faint instead of it being extremely colourful. Turn the saturation up a little bit. And then we'll duplicate that. Boom. Merge these two down. And then kind of just do some more smudging with a little bit of a different brush. Here we go, look. This brush isn't as smudgy, but it's still smudgy, so. This brush is cool. It's a throwback from Photoshop. Some of the Photoshop brushes that I brought over were really good. Some of them were garbage. Just how it goes. Look at the draw. Some of them work basically exactly the same, like this one. Some of them really aren't even the same brush. They just look very similar from the outset. So keep that in mind. And what I'll do now to kind of separate my image one more time, I'll just kind of do a hue saturation. I'll turn the brightness up on that background. And I'll just do one more motion blur. So there is a background, but it's not very clear what it is. And now we've got the character completely on their own. We can make another group. We can duplicate that group. We can flatten that. That's the character. We'll hide the bottom bit. And then what we can do is we can just have a little mess around with the character on the curves layer. Turning the character up a little bit. Gonna hit this with color balance. I'll go shadows. Shadows can be cyan and magenta. I want the midtones to be red. That does look pretty good. Red and yellow. So instantly we have a changed illustration, right? And then I can go here, hue saturation. I'm gonna turn that down. It was up, I'm gonna turn it down, boom. And the character pops a little more, the scene pops a little more. The energy makes sense, and it's all good. Now the character, we can duplicate that layer, and then we could just go in with a chromatic aberration. Love chromatic aberration. We could do perspective or displace. I'll do perspective for this one. Nice and easy. And I'll just erase out a lot of it. I think that's cool. I think, yeah, I'm cool with a lot of it being chromatic. And then maybe we, on top, we throw in some halftone stuff. Hit screen print and hit like, duplicate, we'll do it again. Halftone. And then erase most of this. See if we keep a little tiny bit of it. It kind of goes with the chromatic aberration a little bit, tiny bit, so it's kind of interesting. But these are just finishing effects I like to kind of like semi-try to add here and there without really going too crazy. I like that. That's cool. All right, and that's literally the video, guys. Just having a mess around in Procreate. I started out with, I don't know if I still have it, but I started out with I need to find a way to view this, but literally bring this to the top. Yeah, I literally started out with just these two. And then kind of like it evolved into everything it is now. So I'm gonna hide this group, and that's what it evolved into. This is the final. So thank you guys for watching. I appreciate everyone that watched and everyone that comments or whatever, and everybody that kind of like learned something. I hope you learned something, that coloring and painting doesn't have to be all that crazy. You can literally do it with putting a multiply layer on top of something and then erasing out and then using some smudgy brushes. Literally, for me, the process was just very, very simple. I kept it as simple as possible, and I tried to not go too crazy with everything. I'll be back with more of these types of videos anyway, and how to create this style of art. I like to think it's like very kind of like manga covery. But yeah, give me any feedback if you've got any. Anything you need help with, let me know, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.